Hey guys, happy Finish Friday. I know y'all are like, where have you been? I promise I'm working on stuff. I'm not ignoring y'all, but it was so funny. I was working with my Old World finishing group last night, and then on Wednesday we were doing the Ask Amy and Jean, which Jean just loves doing that. No, he really does. He enjoys answering questions and being able to help people that are doing furniture refinishing and doing their kitchen cabinets and their bathroom vanities and everything. And so it just kind of dawned on me when we were answering so many questions about milk paint. I thought, it's time. I need to do a Finish Friday on milk paint and why I love it so much. And I love the fact that the Old World Finishing Group, now that they have been totally immersed into milk paint, the process of it, the difference of it, they are like, I love this so much. Like, I thought that I loved just painting furniture and having an opaque finish, but milk paint really takes you to a whole new level. So I'm going to, hey Christine, hey guys, let me see. Hey September, hey Caprice, hey Susan, hey everybody. Gosh, thanks so much. As you pop on, tell me where you're tuning in from, and if you are not part of our Amy Howard at Home before and after group, I would love for you to join and be a part of that. It is a beautiful community of over 13,000 members of people that love rescuing and restoring furniture, kitchen cabinets, and there's never been a time that you can have more fun from taking something that you find on the side of the road or at an estate sale or a garage sale or whatever, and then make it your own. We have a tagline, and it's called enjoying the bragging rights. There's nothing more fun. And I will tell you, I'm as bad as many of you in saying, look at this piece, I got it for free, or I got it for $5, and then I was able to totally change it and make it look totally different. So today I'm going to be going over one of my favorite products, milk paint. Now, for those of you that have never worked with it before, it may be kind of scary. And what I want to do is I want to take that fear away, and the fact that milk paint has been around for thousands of years. It is made from casein, C-A-S-E-I-N, casein, which is milk. And so the process that we have put together, from our cracked gesso to our milk paint to our antiquing glaze, and then finishing it out with the wax, is literally a patented process that we have developed, that there is no one else that has the cracked gesso. We developed it ourselves, and it allows you to be able to get just a beautiful small fissure crack underneath your milk paint. And so I'm going to walk that through and kind of show you what that looks like, because it acts as a binder. It also acts as a product that gives you a really pretty finish that milk paint will adhere to. So I am in my studio. I'm trying to let it be as quiet as possible in here so you can hear me and I can focus in being able to teach you. And I'll be honest with you, this room has been kind of busy and a lot of people working in here as we do everything from kitting to all kinds of stuff. So I'm excited to have this day to kind of set aside for just a few minutes and go over it with you. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them and I will be answering them later. And I may not answer them exactly when I'm working on this, but I will definitely go back on Facebook and I'll answer them for you, because I want you to experiment with this. I want you to enjoy it. All right, so I have a piece of trim here that I have worked on that I have actually painted it in Luxe Gray. Now here's the deal. When you are working on a piece that you are rescuing and restoring, and let's say it's a Mediterranean piece, or it's a piece that is, it is stained and it has a lacquer or a polyurethane or something on top of it, all you have to do is clean it with our clean slate. The clean slate will get off waxy residues, it will get off liquid gold, that type thing that's been used in the 70s and the 80s, And it will remove things like pledge and indust and things like that, and it will get your surface ready to be able to paint. Now, so that's why today, as far as the milk paint that I'm going to be showing you, I actually used the one-step one. The one-step works beautifully with the milk paint. It preps your surface to where you can go directly on top of it, and this binds. The one-step will bind to everything from melamine to resin, to plastic, to glass, metal, any of those. And so just clean it with a clean slate, and then just put the one-step on top of it, and then that way you're ready to go. So this is Luxe Gray. This is what I've got. It's completely dried, and now I'm ready to be able to put my milk paint on it. All right, so I'm going to turn this around so you can see what it is that I'm working on. So here's my milk paint. Now, it's going to come in a powder form, and you're going to be mixing it. Let me take some of this out. I've got just a little bit of water in here. So you're going to be mixing it just with water. That's it. Now, this is like shopping in the grocery section because it is all food grade. And I'm going to be taking some of this out, putting it in here to where we can mix it up. So I've got a little, good deal. I've got a little bit of plastic spoon in here. So when you're mixing with milk paint, you want to be able to do 1 part milk paint and 1 part water. And a lot of people will ask, about how much do I need of the milk paint? Milk paint, a container like this, is going to make between 19 and 23 to 24 square feet of coverage. That's about how much it's going to cover. So when you mix this up, here's the mistake a lot of people will make, and this is human nature. They try to make it thick, like a normal paint that they would work with. You don't want to do that, because the whole process for you to be able to mix the milk paint is to be able to antique it, and it gives you a beautiful, beautiful finish that I'm going to show you. So I will put just a little bit of water in. I'll mix it up to where I get all these granules. Can you hear that? It's kind of grainy. So you want to make sure that you get all those out. I will, as a rule, make my milk paint the night before I do a project. That just allows them to all be able to break up, and then I've got a nice container of paint. Now, you do not have to put it into the refrigerator the night before. It's okay to sit out one night. After that, like if you want to be able to use it, you really do want to be able to put it into the refrigerator. So I'm going to turn this up. So a lot of people are like, what is the shelf life of the milk paint after I have mixed it up? It's good for about 2 weeks after you've mixed it. So now one thing that you're going to find, and it has its own idiosyncrasies about it, because it does not have the chemicals and the binding agents in it that chemical-laden paints have. It will have a tendency to settle, and the pigments and color are going to settle to the bottom of the container. It's really easy. You'll notice, look at this. I've put this into a container that actually has the ability to be able to put a lid on it and to shake it up. So you can mix your milk-based paint into a mason jar, and a lot of times that way it will get stuck down in these corners around the bottom of the jar like this, and I'll just kind of dig it out like that just a little bit, put the lid on it, and shake it. Now, the other thing that you want to make sure that you don't want to paint with foam, because a lot of people will be shaking it really, really heartily, and that will create a foam on the top of it. We want to make sure that we do not paint with foam. So if you have another container, you can just pour this back in if you have foam. Pour it into another container and strain it through some cheesecloth, and that way that foam will be caught in the cheesecloth, and then you'll have your beautiful paint. I'm going to promise you, it really doesn't have a smell to it. It's fairly simplistic in its ingredients. It's only made up of 3 ingredients. The other thing that I want you to know, a lot of people will say, Amy, what's the difference between your milk paint and another company's milk paints? Not all are the same. We fly our pigments in from Provence, and so the pigments can give you that beauty and that depth that you're going to get by using a real pigment that has been torn out of those quarries in Provence, and they are natural. That's when they come from the earth, that's the colors that they are. And that's why I will usually work with more muted colors, because they are a natural pigment that comes from the quarries out of Provence. And so when you go in to antique them and you're painting with them, it can literally look like it has a variance of 4 or 5 different colors. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So right before we went live, I painted this. I want you to look at this. Can you see this? Look at that. Isn't that yummy? Now, a lot of people will say, what would you use a milk paint finish on versus maybe the one-step paint? You want to be able to use milk paint more on a carved surface, maybe on a bergère chair. That's a French chair. That's an oversized chair. You want to be, especially picture frames, things that you want to be able to have more detail on. They're beautiful. Now, a large flat surface area, is milk paint the most desirable? Probably not. That would be better maybe for a lacquer or for a one-step paint. But if you have a beautiful console, if you have a small nightstand, if you have a chest of drawers, when we had Amy Howard collection, we did a ton of chest of drawers and nightstand in our milk paint finish, and they were just divine. I love them. So now, I have already mixed some up, but I want to talk to you really quickly about cracked gesso. So if you're just now tuning in, please tell me where you're coming and tuning in from. And my name is Amy Howard. I am the founder and creator of all the products here at Amy Howard at Home. And I have my partner in crime, Jean Howard, that we manufactured furniture for over 30 years. And we've got a lot of experience, and that's why we enjoy taking out this time to be able to train you and teach you and how to be able to use our products successfully. Because maybe there's a lot of you that even want to be able to build a business of refinishing furniture. This is definitely something that you're going to want to know how to do, and you can be successful at. So here's an example. I almost want to cover this up because I want you to see. This is Luxe Gray. I painted this with the Luxe Gray One Step before going live. This is my cracked gesso on top of the Luxe Gray. Now, why cracked gesso? How is cracked gesso different than cracked patina? Let me show you. So this is cracked gesso. Cracked gesso is not the same as cracked patina. Cracked patina is developed for you to be able to use the one-step paint with it in order to get a cracked textured finish. And it's fabulous. It is not developed to be worked with milk paint. If you want a crack, fissure texture, you're going to want to be able to use the cracked gesso. There is not another product on the market like this anywhere in the world for that matter. It doesn't exist because we developed this through the process of our milk-based paint for you to be able to have something that would give you that texture and that fissure crack. So this is what I want you, this is before, this is the Luxe Gray that I painted the one step on. Then this is the cracked gesso on top of my Luxe Gray. Now, I'm going to show you the same thing again. You're going to take 1 part cracked gesso with 1 part water, mix it up just like you do your milk paint. And it's going to be in a container. Let me turn this around because you're going to see what I'm talking about, like this. Now, do you see the foam that I'm talking about? You want to make sure that you can, look at this down in here. It's pretty nasty looking like this, isn't it? You can stir this up and make it mix back together. And there is a little bit, I noticed this, we talked about this in our Old World finishing class last night. There is a little bit of a pink hue to this, but you can work with it and it's going to dry down completely white. The cool thing about it is gesso or gesso, it's just like tomato. 3 different people are going to say it 3 different ways. But I say gesso, that's my southern slang, I guess. But I used to call this legno gesso. Legno gesso basically means it's furniture. It's Italian for furniture, gesso. And it's what we would put on our furniture that would make it crack when we put the milk paint on it. It's not going to crack until you put the milk paint on top. So it's 1-to-1. A package is going to cover between 18 and 23 square feet. and you want to be able to mix it up. You can keep this in the refrigerator. If you're making it the night before, you're going to paint a piece of furniture, just leave it at room temperature. And then if you put it in the refrigerator after you've done your project to be able to use it on something else, do not microwave this and just let it come back to room temperature and stir it up good. All right? So I'm going to show you. I want to put this on because I want you to be able to see, but I'm really jazzed about showing you what it's going to look like when I'm finished. So I'm going to go down in the bottom of this. Now, and here's the other thing you're going to have to get used to. When you're putting this on, y'all are going to get frustrated because you're going to go, this is like painting with water. You've got to trust the process because it is thin. And when I was painting this before, can you see? When I was painting this before, especially putting it all over the Luxe Gray One Step, this is what it looks like. See how thin it is? You're thinking, what am I painting? I'm painting water. This makes no sense. I'll layer it up. I'll get it just a little bit thicker. But this is what it's going to dry down to look like. It's going to turn to this yummy white. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. I hit this with a hairdryer and sped it up. That's not going to compromise your finish at all, so don't worry about that. All right, so now after my gesso has dried, you don't have to have 100% coverage if you don't want to. Because I'm just wanting to be able to get that yummy crack. And so now I've got my milk paint. Now, look at the consistency of this. Do you see this? It's watery. Now, you can make, I want to look, it's so funny. Here's the teacher in me. It's like, I want to look at you when I'm telling you this. So, the point of the cracked gesso is to be able to have a crack underneath, and it gives you that beautiful white finish that's going to show through when I go to antique this. Do you have to add the cracked gesso? No, you don't have to. Why did I add the Luxe Gray? Well, because if I'm painting on top of something that I'm rescuing, all I want to be able to do is I want to be able to clean it, and I want to have a paint that's going to bind to it so I can put the milk paint on top of. Because you cannot put milk paint, as a rule, on top of a finish that has a lacquer or a polyurethane on top of it, because the milk paint does not have the binding agents in it. So you're gonna wanna have the one-step paint put on first, and then you can follow it with the milk paint. Promise me on this, and you can get on the before and after group. You can ask some people to kind of share some of their pieces that they've done in the milk paint. Once you've done this, once you've experienced it, once you've seen the success of it, you're hooked. You will always use one step. There's always a place for it, but you will be into this group now that we talk about that just adores milk paint, and you get it, and you almost become a finish snob. It's sad, but it's kind of a happy way of saying that. All right, so I'm gonna turn this down again, and I want you to be able to see. I'm gonna actually put my rag on top of this because I don't want you to see it. I want us to be able to focus on this area right here. This is where we put our cracked gesso. So I'm going to stir this up. I want you to be able to see how thin it is. Now, could I make it just a little bit thicker? Yes. I just kind of play with it. I like this with the black because you're going to see it has a lot of depth to it. And then I'm going to put it just directly on top of it. Now, when you're working with the milk paint too, it's going to be important to work on a surface where you can lay it down flat. This is not going to do as well on a vertical surface. So you want to be able to lay it down. You want to be able to have control over it. So I'm just kind of laying this down on top of my gesso. You are not going to see the crack in it until it is dry, and until you start going in and go into the antiquing process. That's when you're gonna start seeing these beautiful, tiny little fissure cracks appear. You know, and I equate this more to a kind of a 18th century finish. We could go into even more of even a 16th or 17th century finish where the cracking is very natural. It's like more of an oxidation process that's happened over a period of time. And it's very natural looking. Those of you that really want to be able to create finishes that are very authentic looking, you're going to get it with our milk paint. The cool thing is It's very washy. It's brushy looking. And a lot of times, I'll kind of come back with my brush and I'll create almost some reticulation like this instead of brush strokes. I don't mind if it puddles up just a little bit because guess what? It's going to dry down to where you will literally see kind of the puddling. Now, let me do this. I've got my hairdryer right here with me, and I apologize for the noise, but I want you to be able to watch it go from this into the dried state. So it's going to dry a little bit lighter. Now, I'm going to hold this far enough away from it that I don't move it around too terribly much. Can you see what's starting to happen? Here is where it's starting to dry right here. So you see it's considerably, this is more wet, it's considerably darker. But when I come back to put the wax on top of it, it actually is going to be, it's going to go darker again. Now, here's something, I know, I love that, Tamara. You know, that's why we were talking about milk paint last night. That's what I told him. I was like, I've got to be able to do a Finish Friday and go over this because so many people have so many questions that it just seems like, I don't know. It's like the whole idea of buying something in a powder form and adding water. I promise it's so easy and it's so enjoyable. Now, I'm not going to sit here with a hairdryer and dry that area because you've got better things to do than to watch paint dry. But what I do want to do is I want to be able to show you this next section. So I'm going to lay some tape down and I want us to be able to focus on what I'm showing you. The other thing is, so think about it as a 3-step process. You can paint your 1-step paint on, then you're going to put your cracked gesso, then you're going to put your milk paint. So the 4th step is going to be your antiquing glaze. This antiquing glaze is going to be used with a little seawool sponge, and it's going to give you a little bit of color, but it's also going to allow you to be able to reticulate this a little bit more, and it's going to remove the paint. There's no way that you're going to be able to get a really great looking authentic finish on a piece of furniture that looks like it's from the 17th or 18th century by using sandpaper. What do people do? They go in and they use sandpaper. That looks abrasive. It can have a tendency to look a little contrived, where with this, the paint will literally fall away. That's the beauty of being able to use casein or milk-based paints to be able to create more of an old world finish. All right, so let me show you. I'm gonna turn this down again. All right, so this is the section that we're working on right here. And I'm gonna take my seawool sponge and I'm gonna put it into some water. You'll notice with seawool sponges, they're really, really hard. So you've gotta put them back in their natural state, which is water. So I'm gonna dip this sponge down into the water. I usually will use warm tap water. And now look at my sponge. Now it's very pliable. And now I'm gonna come back. I've got my antiquing glaze. Let me see if I've got another container. Hold on one second. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna put just a little bit of antiquing glaze in here. This is water-based too. It has no VOCs. So I can just come in here. I'm gonna dip it into it and saturate my sponge like this. All right, so I'm gonna, look at this. Can you tell? Can you have it to where, can you see how it's starting to release that paint? And it allows me to be able to have a very natural look, like I have, it's worn over a period of time, but it doesn't look contrived. There's no sandpaper here. Look at this. So the paint will literally just kind of fall away. Is that fabulous? Now, as a rule, I'll have just a little piece of cloth or something nearby so that way I can kind of touch it and to be able to see how much it is that I'm taking off. I don't want to take off too much. I want to be really, really careful. Let me show you. Can you see this? I don't want it to be overdone. I want it to be where I've got some depth to it, but I don't want to take off too much. Now, I'm going to hit this with a hairdryer again. And I want to be able to have this completely dry. Now, let me show you. So this is Luxe Gray, cracked gesso, and then the Noir, which is our black milk paint. It gives just a beautiful finish. See how it's all so reticulated? There's so much depth going on with the finish. It looks very, very authentic. It doesn't look opaque. It looks like there might be several different colors on there, but it's actually just the black on top. Now I'm gonna come back with my light wax and my dark wax. One thing that's gonna be really important is to make sure that you don't have 100% coverage. And I'm gonna use a chip brush to be able to apply this. And so I've got my dark wax and my light wax. Now, I'll just show you these. This light wax, I love it because it does have kind of an ambery color to it. It feels amazing, and it has beeswax in it. It's beeswax and carnauba wax. And that's the reason for the color. Now, as I'm working with it, I'm just going to load up a little bit onto my brush, like this. And you want to be able to have a piece of cardboard, something natural that you can offload it on like this. I don't want you to have too much. I just want there to be enough. The mistake that you could make very quickly is to have too much wax on your piece, because then you're going to lose all the depth. You just want to be able to hit it just a little bit and do maybe about 50 or 60% coverage, okay? So watch. So I'm just going to kind of hit the top, so like this. And you're going to see it's going to automatically go a little bit darker, like this. Now, the beauty of it, I'm going to allow it to be a little darker here where my wax hit, and it's tacky. I'm feeling of it. This has got to be able to come to tack. The down in the inside, I did not put the wax, and that way it's going to be a little bit of a lighter gray color. And then that way, once it comes to tack, after about 30, say 30, 35 minutes, I can come back and I can add my Dust of Ages, and then I'll buff it, and it will have a beautiful patina and finish. Now, on the flip side, if I were to use the black one-step paint, I'm gonna have opaque finish. It's gonna be complete coverage. I'm not gonna have the depth of it. I would literally have to come back and be sanding this down with sandpaper, which that's not what I'm wanting. I'm wanting to be able to have something that's just very worn, just very authentic looking. And then that way, on the larger flat surface areas, it's gonna look more like this, but on any raised areas, I'm gonna have it to where it's worn and it's beautiful. In about 30 minutes, I'm gonna pop some Dust of Ages on this. It's gonna get down in the crevices. It acts as a polishing agent, but it also is gonna add some depth, some beautiful gray color to be able to add that much more visual texture. And then I'm gonna take my lint-free rag and I'm gonna buff it, and I'm gonna start to just get this natural, beautiful wax sheen that is truly a true patina. that patina where it looks like their hands have touched it over a period of time and it's just worn and it looks absolutely beautiful. So remember, you want to make sure that you use the one step first if you're painting over an existing piece that has polyurethane or lacquer or something like that on it. But get 100% coverage like I used my Luxe Gray. Then you can go back in, you can add your cracked gesso to have a beautiful crack, and it does prime the surface beautifully. And then come on top of that with your choice of your milk paint color, and then use your antiquing glaze and then your wax. I promise it's going to change the way you rescue and restore furniture, and it's going to bring you into our tribe of loving milk paint. You'll never turn back. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you, in your city, have beautiful fall weather to be able to enjoy. Take a deep breath, turn the television off, go to an estate sale, go to a garage sale, and buy a piece that you can turn around, you can rescue, restore, redecorate it, and help us save 28 million tons of furniture from the landfills in this country every year. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's just my honor and my privilege to be able to be your mother maker and your teacher in this whole process of rescuing and restoring. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.